So, and good morning, everybody, and welcome to Monday. It is the last day of July, guys.
Wow.
It is
So fast.
I can't believe we're already in August. I love it. But that means we're just that much closer to football season, and I feel it. I mean,
Well,
it's like
football starts this week. There happens to be my team playing on Thursday night.
that's right. And this coming weekend would be the Hall of Fame inductions, which we have a local legend down here in Zach Thomas that is being inducted into the Hall of Fame.
So you guys will be at training camp next week. But when they opened up training camp, they had an alumni day, and Zach was looking great, man. He's in great shape, and it's good to see him out there. I'm super psyched about Mark Clayton because Mark Clayton got into the Senior Hall of Fame, which is a really cool thing to do, is because he is definitely one of the greatest receivers I've ever seen play. He was so exciting. And it was great because he used to spend time in our house.
Yeah, super cool.
So we missed Lori last week. Where the hell were
I
you?
missed you guys too. I was in Louisville at the National Leadership Conference with JA. So I had a great time, caught up with some associates from around the country, and some really good keynote speakers. So great time.
Did you do any bourbon tasting?
I did not, because I can't even stand the smell of bourbon. So I didn't do any of that. Some people went zip lining down in the dark cave. I was like, yeah, no thanks. I'm staying up here.
That's awesome. But you enjoyed the city of Louisville?
I did. Well, actually the highlight was Jill, who was my colleague who I went with from JA. We went to go out to dinner one night. And so we sat at the bar, figured we'll have a glass of wine first. Bartender said, oh, are you going to the concert? We said, what concert? She said, the Dixie Chicks. So we said, no, but and we got fourth row tickets, left the bar, went to the show.
It is not the Dixie Chicks.
I know it's the Chicks.
That is inappropriate language.
I know it's the Chicks.
The Chicks.
It's still political, though.
Were they great?
Oh, are they ever?
Yeah, they are. They were great. They are a little. Well, they're activists. I would call them activists, not political.
Nice.
Right.
But no, it was great. We
That's
were in fourth row. We had a great time.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, awesome stuff. We got a great show. Lori sent me something last week that I've been reading and digging into, how to be the ideal team player. We always talk about it directionally from a leadership standpoint. Now I want to talk about how you find those people, because there is no I in team and all of that crap. But a couple of things just to share today. July will go down as the hottest month ever. Just
unbelievable.
And I tell you, it is just demoralizing when you step outside. It's just.
And Monica said, like, we're like 1 month closer to fall weather, and I'm like, I don't really know that we're gonna get fall weather this year. Like, we might just be like cruising into the 70s, like in like January. So
right.
Just hold on to a warm winter. There will definitely be no snow this year.
Yeah, it's sort of crazy. For those of you who, like me, want to always look at the positive side of things, when people said, oh, what about the recession? I said, what about it? There is no recession. The reports that are coming out in July, the U.S. economy is humming along, increased at a rate, an annualized rate that's higher than they expected. So look for the good news. Always look for the good news. Speaking of good news, tell us about your weekend. Mark, I know you spent some time with a fellow huddler.
Yeah, we had a fantastic weekend. I mean, obviously it started great with golf on Friday, but then on Saturday it was a great family day. We went to the park and hung out by the pool. And then Saturday night we went to Toro Latin Kitchen in Dania, and I got to spend some time with the Linskys, which they're just wonderful people. And we got to share great tequila. We got to share great stories. We had some really good food, and it was a great time. So the Linskys did not disappoint. It was with the tequila and the storytelling, it was a fantastic night.
Awesome. Lori, you had a great weekend. You got to celebrate our friend Patrick winning. Yay!
We did. He's been practicing and really wanting to be in the 50 meter. So last year was his first time, but this year he was in the butterfly for the first time and a relay. So 2 second places and 1 first place. So
Awesome. Well, Friday for us was an amazing day. We always talk about team, doing things for the team. So we decided to take Friday, take the day off, get out to Grand Oaks. We dodged rain and lightning, but the quality time you get to spend with the team. And Lori, in your absence, your team did the same.
yes, they did.
Show me. Yeah, look at that.
That's our
That's
development
awesome.
team. Yep. And our programs team did theirs a few weeks ago too. So I love that they do these things to
Who
bond.
organized that?
Adrena does it a couple of times a year.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Super
I
cool.
see Joy Linsky is checking in. I'm just not sure why I wasn't invited Saturday night, but I'll just leave it. I'll just leave it as that.
Not
I
all
know, if
about
it's
you.
a huddle thing. I mean,
You know
really,
what?
Steve, we're just going to have to go do our own, I guess.
I mean,
So I,
that would
on
be
the
a
other
great
hand, did
place
not.
to have a huddle. That would be a great place to have a huddle event because the tequila library there was ridiculous. I
I would
mean,
love that. That'd be great. Let's do
every
it. And Eat, Drink, Think. Let's bring back Eat, Drink, Think. So I chose to go the other way and spend a weekend relaxing, taking care of myself. Went and got the digits taken care of, which if you do not take care of your feet, they will not take care of you. So it was a really fun afternoon, me and Helen. And then we went to Eddie V's for dinner. And you know what? They're a chain, but they do it right. It was a phenomenal meal, just great service, great music. They're doing, music in the lounge now. So we had a high top table. And at the end of dinner, they served her a rose, which I was
Aw.
like, it's such a nice touch. It was great. So it was a great weekend. I'm totally jacked up. I leave tomorrow for Orlando. So I'll do the content. I'll do the huddle tomorrow. We'll not be doing it Wednesday because I'll be doing the keynote for Take Stock in Children. But let's wake this thing up. We got fun stuff today.
Wake up, everybody. Get up, get up, get up, get up. We got, come on. Wake up, everybody. Teach a new way. Maybe then they'll listen what you have to say. Wake up, everybody. No more sleeping in bed. No more about the thinking, time of thinking ahead. Come on.
So prior to getting to Lori's content, we found a video. Somebody actually sent this to me over the weekend, and it's so apropos for what we do here for our show. You have a choice as to how you show up. Before we get to that, Casey, nothing like checking in and seeing my feet. That's just because I want to keep you on your toes.
feet content, baby. Feet
Boom, boom. So I want to show you this video. It's Be the Thermostat.
So here's a quick story. There's a thermometer and there's a thermostat. What does the thermometer do? It takes the temperature. What does the thermostat do? It changes it. Are you going to be a thermometer or a thermostat? A thermostat. Walk in the room doesn't feel right. I'm going to be a thermometer and I feel it. It's not right, but I'm not going to say anything. I took the temperature, but I didn't do anything about it. Thermostat changes it. So when we recognize things like that, whether it's not making hard cuts, not communicating, you have a choice. What good is it to recognize it and then do nothing about it, right? So that's a great observation. Be a thermostat. Don't be a thermometer. Be a thermostat.
I love it.
Thoughts?
Yeah. I
Cool.
mean, this to me is team accountability. Like we're going to talk about, ideal team player, and we're doing some work with one of our clients about building core values, which is super important to an organization because you have to define what the behavior is that you want from your people. But at the end of the day, if people aren't willing to hold each other accountable to it, it's a waste of time. You could have the prettiest posters, you could have the best explanations, everybody in the organization could know exactly what to do. But if you're not willing to hold others accountable to it, wasting your time.
Well, so what I want to jump into, first of all, shout out to Brendan Neef. He did a great huddler in the hot seat on Friday. But one of the major takeaways I thought was that, leaders are readers. Man, he reads a lot. And I've learned that from almost everybody I've come in contact with who's been successful. And Lori, you're a reader. You're sending me articles. You're doing this kind of stuff. That is a great habit to do. Read it, digest it, share it with somebody. So you shared this book by Patrick Lencioni, or Lencioni, or I don't know how to pronounce his last name, but it's The Ideal Team Player, and he talks about 3 characteristics. But Lori, I want you to jump in and take the mic.
Well, thank you. So yeah, I love this stuff. And by the way, on that last thing, I just want to mention, I think there are too many people who don't think they're a thermostat and just think they're a thermometer, who go in, see something's up, but just would rather stand by the water cooler, right, and bitch about it versus changing it. And so I think until people have the courage, right? I think part of it is courage, to be that thermostat. I think you're right. It does.
You sure it's not confidence?
Could be, but I think it's more courage. But anyway.
I would say ultimately it's responsibility, until people feel the responsibility to say something, because you might not be confident in how you're going to say it. You might not feel, empowered to say it. If you feel like you have a responsibility to say something, and I don't care what walk of life, you could be your best friend, right? Could be somebody that is doing something or saying something that you're like, it's my responsibility to say something here, not just because the organization or I have the responsibility to do it. That is the level of ownership I think you're looking for.
What didn't you understand about me giving the microphone to Lori?
Sorry, it was conversation.
Yes, we were having a conversation. It's okay, Mark. Anyway, I love this book because
I'm out of here. See you guys.
I'm always trying to think about, first of all, how do we hire right? And so understanding what we need in our team, right, for each person to be. And so when I came across this book, I couldn't get enough of it. And Patrick talks about 3 things. He talks about hunger, talks about humble, and he talks about smart, meaning people smart, right? And he says you cannot have 1 or 2 and not all 3 in order to be the ideal team player. And he gives them some clever names, right? If you're hungry and smart but not humble, you're a skilled politician, right?
Mm-hmm.
And he talks a little bit about that. And they're interested in themselves, right? In furthering themselves, not the organization. If you're humble and smart but not hungry, you're a lovable snacker, right? Because you don't get going when things get rough. And then the last one he talks about is people who are humble and hungry but not smart are accidental mess makers, right?
And that one I love. That one I totally get, because you can have people with all the right, it feels right, but they just mess shit up.
Yeah.
I really like the way that he defines smart, though, as in understanding how to communicate with people. He called it emotional intelligence. There's a lot of different buzzwords for it, but ultimately it boils down to being able to communicate with anybody, right? Understanding how to do the dance with somebody, recognize somebody else's communication style, recognize their demeanor, recognize the way they operate, and then assimilate into a conversation in order to be able to work together. That's not IQ. That's not book smart. That's not tactical, right? It's a very unique skill set. That when he talked about the accidental mess maker, you got people that are super driven, right? You got people that are humble and like, hey, I want to do this. I want to work hard, and I'll do anything for the team. And then they just go do it, and they just, are like a wrecking ball that goes through everything that they're trying to work on because they don't understand how to operate with other people and actually how to get something done. So
You
I
know,
think it was so great.
it's interesting. As I was reading it, to me, this is just my own personal opinion. I think the one that is the most dangerous not to have is humility.
Yep.
Again, I agree with him that you need to have all three and work on developing all three. But I think the most dangerous one is when someone doesn't have humility, right?
So he's the first guy that I can remember really putting like the borders around the word chemistry. There's no denying chemistry. You can mix it up and try. It is what it is. And when teams have that chemistry, they are high functioning. And without it, it's a mess. So that speaks to the person who is overachieving, but they're the biggest pain in the ass to deal with. And in some of the other stuff I'm doing a speech in Orlando later this month on culture. Most people are afraid to get rid of that person who is the one without humility.
Right.
They're the biggest problem because the chemistry can't happen with that kind of person. Mark, you dealt with it for sure. If you had a quarterback or a running back that was an asshole, it just put a dank on the whole team.
It didn't matter how talented a player was. If they were not able to buy into the goal and remove themselves from the equation, and that to me is, if there's anything that is to be just absolutely studied and taken into account and really, appreciated for Nick Saban, is the fact that he's been able to get consistently the best, most talented players in the country and get them to buying into a team unit and get them to buy in to playing together and understanding that individual accolades will come from the team's success that they have. And he does it. But what he also does is he weeds out the ones that fool him. He doesn't, he's not perfect, right? He brings in the wrong guys sometimes. Now, his percentage of finding the right ones versus finding the wrong ones is significantly higher, but doesn't mean he doesn't find the wrong ones. Doesn't mean he doesn't get fooled. He just has no problem saying, you don't belong here. We're going to find you another place to go, and working his way around the system to be able to do that.
Yep. Yeah, we talked about that at JA recently with everyone. If you're a team leader and you're hiring a team, what do you do when you have that amazing performer, but they have a sucky attitude, right? Which is a lack of humility in most cases. So
correct. That's exactly my point, is that it's what you're willing to tolerate.
Right.
A lot of the audits that we do, we go into an organization and people say, well, they're untouchable. Well, they're the problem, So,
and it can tear down the culture.
Oh, I love the fact that his quote was, most interviews are still the same stilted, rehearsed, and predictable conversations they were 40 years ago. It's such bullshit. It's the same stupid dance. It's almost as stupid as, and I had this conversation with somebody from Lockton the other day about when people ask you for references. It's like, let me give you the person that hates me the most. It's the reality here is that nothing really good happens in the interview until you take them for a meal. And then you find out how they treat the waiter, and then you find out, and we had talked about that. I forget who it was, but we talked about somebody unpacking that dinner and picking, I forget who that was. It was in the Huddle. But that's a great example of, you don't really know who someone is until you really know who someone is.
Yeah. Yeah. And I love that. And I wanted to get to that. So how do you hire the people, right, that have hunger, the smart, right, the smart piece and the humility? And he talks about three things pretty much. Conduct that non-traditional interview, right? Invite them to your kid's soccer game to meet you there. Go for breakfast. I do a lot of interviews over breakfast. I think the other thing is, and he doesn't have this on here, but there are times when people during those interviews, especially if you're not in an office setting, they feel more relaxed. So they tell you more about their life. So when someone sits there in an interview and starts bitching about their past employer, and you don't really catch on that that's a problem, right? And you think, oh, it must have been the employer, right? There's a lot that comes out of those breakfasts. And I think back to a couple of them where I made not the wrong choices, but I didn't pay attention to some of
Oh,
my.
you learned the hard way, my dear. You learned the hard way.
I have learned the hard way. Absolutely. And we're all going to make those mistakes because, as you
Absolutely.
said, people can fool us, right? We choose to see the positive in people, right?
So
Then
I,
focus on
I
that.
think something that most people don't know is the interview process in the coaching industry, right? And as a football coach, it's not like you come in for an hour interview and you get on the board and you talk about football and that's it. When you interview for a new position with a staff, it is a 1 to 2 day event. They are flying you in night before, and they have an itinerary that will take you from 7 a.m. until 7 a.m. the next day. And it's breakfast with just the head coach in the morning, and then it's facility tours with the athletic trainer and the strength coach, and then it's sitting down with the offensive coordinator and talking some ball, and then it's going to lunch with the offensive staff, and then it's coming back and sitting down with the defensive staff. And all of a sudden you're in all of these different scenarios that are some social, some it feels like you're just getting a tour, but you're meeting more people who have influence on the relation on the program. And all of these different things come together to then at the end say, okay, we'll talk to you, we'll let you know in a few days, or we'll let you know in a few weeks, or however long they're going to take to make the decision. And then they all come together. It's a big staff meeting where everybody talks about what they saw, what they felt. And so, like, because, an understanding, if you're going to get hired on a football staff, you're going to spend 16 hours a day with these people. And you're locked in for at least a year. There's no 90-day trial to figure out whether or not this is going to work. Once you're there, you're there. So the cost of missing is significantly higher, which I would say, if you think about the cost of hiring and firing somebody and the turnover to that, wouldn't it be worth like the $500 to spend a full day with them, or the opportunity cost for everybody else that isn't doing the main thing they're a part of and a part of the interview process? Wouldn't that help you be more successful?
Yeah,
I
I
want to make
agree.
sure. I want to make sure I shout out John Wensveen. This is a thoughtful response, John. Thank you. And I've never heard it as surfers or chess players, but I can see, that's where the surfers are the ones that are trying to get away from, just
Right.
kind of slide away from it. But that's great stuff. I mean, so all of this speaks to how you pick your friends too. I mean, that's what I really like. It's like you don't want to hang out with somebody who's sitting there talking about themselves all day long. Look at what I'm doing, and this is me, and I did everything, and I invented the internet. And you're not going to be, generally, I don't think you want to spend your time with that person. So it's, Shay, we need some overtime. Sorry. Come on, get ready. Shay's sleeping. Sorry.
And we'll go to overtime.
Sorry to cut you off, Lori. Go.
In the book, he gives an example of Schwab. Remember, Charles Schwab.
Charles Schwab.
He would set up every interview was a breakfast interview, and he would get to the restaurant 15 minutes early, and he would ask the server to make sure that they got the person's order wrong, so that he could see how they reacted to getting the order wrong, right? So, there are ways you can set this up also, which I kind of liked. It's a little.
But even if you didn't do that, the way they greet the
server,
person that's serving them, the way they interact, such a great thing. If you talk down to the people that serve you, which you see all the time, those are people I choose not to go out to dinner with anymore. The people who are cheap, the people who don't tip, those are all key indicators.
The people who complain.
Oh my God.
That to me is the ultimate indicator. Like, how quickly are you comfortable complaining about somebody or something else? Because as soon as you allow that to come out of your mouth, like, all right, I got an idea on who you are.
So, I mean, when people said this years ago, or we adopted this philosophy, was that if I don't want to have a beer with you, there's
I don't
no
wanna
shot
work
you're
with you.
working with me.
Right.
Not going to
But
do
I
it.
want to make sure we get to the other two before we run
Okay.
out of overtime. The second one he talked about was asking questions more than once. He talks about law and order. You know how lawyers ask the same question different ways 3 or 4 times?
Well,
Did you kill that person? No, I didn't kill them. By the third or fourth question, they go, okay, yes, I killed them, right? So he talks about how to ask questions. And also talking about if I were your coworker, right, how would I describe you or that sort of thing. He also talks about in the interviews getting to know, inviting them with their spouse or their partner, and getting to know their partner. And the group interviews, I know some of you mentioned, which we do at JA. And then the third one was he talks about scaring people with sincerity. And I've used this before, not used it, but I've said to people, listen, this is I have high expectations of myself and of this team. And sometimes that's pressure, right? We're extremely competitive. We love to be high performing. We love to win. We want to be the best at what we do. If that's not a situation or a workplace that you are comfortable with, then this is not the right place for you. And that's what he talks about in that, being honest and saying to them, is this the right fit? Because this is really what it's like. If you're going to feel uncomfortable, right, with that kind of
we talked
environment,
about
then this
that
is not
with
the
the
right.
admiral the other day. You know, the admiral said, "Listen, if this is not going to be a fit, I'll help you find something else." But you know, the expectation is you got to show up every day.
Yep. And so he talks about that third thing. But there's so much in that book. There's assessments that you can do. There's suggestions on how to become more of one of those or more of those, you know, two of those things. So I would recommend it highly to everyone. I want to buy a copy for every team member on my team.
Good for you. Readers are leaders and leaders are readers.
You know what's so interesting though? I just have to say this to the
You
point
have
of
to.
what we talked about before. I have given books to our team members before and said, hey, in the next 3 weeks, like read the book, give me 2 or 3 takeaways. Do you know how many people have come back to me and given me their takeaways?
Zero.
Maybe 1 or 2 out of 20. I think
Well, there's
that's
a better
so
methodology
Your
to do that.
CEO tells you, here's a book that you can grow and learn from. Hey, share with me what you learned so we can talk about it.
Speaks
And
to you
you
can't
don't
make
follow
people do
through?
it. You can't make people
Whoa.
do it. People have to want to
But you
grow on
can
their own. They have to
say,
have the
you
desire.
can, you know, and I used to do this, is that, Mark, you're responsible for chapter 1 and 2 and you're reporting on it in Monday's Huddle. Boom.
Sure.
Group learning, you know, and I saw Simon Sinek put together his book club. It's ridiculously expensive, but what they do is they hire the author to walk you through each of the chapters. And it's like sort of a 6-week mini course. So it is difficult to get people to read, but this is a great kickoff to a Monday. Read something, learn something, be humble, be hungry, be people smart, and you will get hired by Lori.
You'll be on the ball. Let's go. Have a great start to the
It's
week.
on the ball.
If you're enjoying reading, make sure you're signed up for the newsletter so you can read that as well. We will see you guys tomorrow for a terrific Tuesday. Let's get down to business.
Please don't worry about me. I'm about to let my heart speak. My friends keep telling me to leave this. So let's get down to business. Let's get down